All right, so this is Todd Atkins, and I'm here with Gilbert Yvel. And Gilbert, I was just wanted to let you kind of introduce yourself if there's any new people to the sport listening that may not have been familiar with you.
All right. Great to be here. Hi, I'm Gilbert Yvel, of course. I'm a former UFC, former Pride. I'm a former rings fighter. I fought Affliction. I've been pretty much at all the shows. I fought them all, and I've done it all. Yes.
Now, the fights I was kind of familiar with, or where I first started seeing you, were some of those fights of Bob Schreiber and some of those other guys. Can you kind of talk about maybe when you first started training and then how you got into those kind of fights?
Yeah, actually, I was playing soccer. I'm from Holland, and of course, everybody in Holland plays soccer. I was playing soccer. At one point, I was getting a little tired of all the running and being in the rain and in the cold. And at one point, I started becoming a goalkeeper, and even that was getting tired because it was cold and the balls that come to you are very hard. And some of my friends some of my friends, they started doing kickboxing in with this local tough guy. And yeah, we went I went with them, and it was actually the first time I'm doing kickboxing. Basically, it was this little room where we were in, and we only have like four pairs of boxing gloves, one big kicking bag, and we just have to wait in line to kick or punch or do a knee or something. This is what I did for like 3 years when I think it was 14 till I was 18. At one point, I was 18. I moved from this farmer town in Holland to Amsterdam, big city. And over there, I met my first trainer, Lucien Carbine. And he took me after 3 months to this free fight. Yeah, it's like the first MMA fight. Free fight was that in that time fought with bare hands, like open hands, no fish, open hands. Somebody got sick, and they asked if I would fight that fight, and I did. And this was the beginning of my fighting career.
I'm curious. I mean, Holland is not necessarily a big country, but it had such a big influence on stand-up fighting and kind of their own style. Why do you think it happened that way?
I'm actually not sure. Um, Holland was, I think, in the beginning they were all karate fighters that went to Thailand, and from there on they started learning Muay Thai fighting. I think because of we had those all those K1 champions in from Holland, Peter Arts, Ernest de Hoost. Um, in the beginning, of course, later on, Remy Bianski, Sammy Shield. But I think, yeah, yeah, back in the beginning, they from the karate, I think it's a small step to doing Muay Thai.
But the styles that you guys were learning was a little bit different than what you see in Thailand, I would say. Maybe more hands. The Thais are more known for like the kicks and the knees. The Dutch style was more like maybe a boxing style with kicks at the end of the combinations. And so,
Yes.
why do you think the Dutch kind of developed their own style outside of what they were learning from the Thais?
I'm actually not sure. It's a pretty good question. I think there were a lot of Safat fighters, and I think Safat is French boxing. I think there's a lot of boxing in there, and I think a lot of Dutch fighters. I think especially Lucien Carbin, my old trainer, was a Safat fighter, and they boxed a lot. And I know the people in Thailand, they do a lot of knees and kicking, but not a lot of boxing. I think all the boxing they do is from the last couple of years. So maybe the Dutch fighters want to be different because they could not win from the Thai fighters. Maybe they want to try a different tactic.
And so, how did you end up kind of doing the free fight shows, like when you had these fights with Bob Schreiber? Because that's kind of what stuck out in my mind when I first saw you was your fights with the Dirty Bob Schreiber or whatever they wanted to call him at the time.
Yeah, so from my first fight, I actually got disqualified because I gave this guy a knees on his head. Yeah, I know everybody's thinking, of course, Gilbert is doing that, but I wasn't allowed to knee to the head without knee pads. In the beginning of the free fight, you had to wear knee pads, and we generally didn't know that. So, but I put on so good of a show that the Chris Dorman, the big guy from Rings Holland, he saw it and he wanted me to fight in Rings Holland. And from there on, I was destroying all my opponents. I think first three with an early knockout. And I think Bob was my fourth fight. And it was, yeah, Bob was a little bit seasoned. I was the new boy, and we had a really, the first fight was a real war that I won on a leg lock. Not long after that, we had another fight. It was a mixed fight, so it was with little boxing gloves, and Bob won that fight. And then our third fight was two hard to handle show, also an MMA fight with little boxing gloves, and it turned out to be like a 10-minute stand-up, actually a stand-up war. So basically, we were kickboxing with little boxing gloves, and I was the lucky one to win that fight. But yeah, Bob, 1, 2, 3. I fought him 3 times, and he's the like toughest motherfucker I know.
But how would you describe him? I mean, when I was watching him, it didn't feel like when you watch the other fighters or like you, he didn't necessarily have that kind of, I don't know what you call it, like that ability maybe as a kickboxer. But he was really tough, like you said.
Yes.
What do you think he did good? Because it didn't seem like he did anything like amazing, but he was very tough, and yeah, he had a determination to win.
Yeah, that's exactly what you were saying. Bob was tough, and he really knew how to fight. Basically, maybe not the best of kickboxer or best of MMA fighter, but he could fight. He wasn't afraid to get a punch. He could take a lot. I gave him my best knees. I think I hear this rib crack under my knees, and I hear him making the sound of like, "Oh," and he just, and he came and he kept fighting. He kept fighting with me. So if you're fighting a guy who doesn't go down, who keep fighting forward, it's tough. It's difficult. And actually, the last fight I fought with him, my game plan was we have to fight 10 minutes. And after that, if there was no winner, we have to fight another 5 minutes. And I knew I couldn't knock out Bob because Bob don't go down. So my game plan was to fight him for 10 minutes. And then the last 5 minutes were another round, and then give it my all, and then try to win on points. I was lucky that he had to stop because he got so much damage in his face and all over his body. But yeah, Bob is like the real deal, the real fighter, the real badass. Yeah.
Now, you went on to go to rings in Japan and really make a mark for yourself there. You know, fighting under those rules where you have like rope grabs and things like that, is it hard to keep track of what you can do? Because there's just so much going on, you know?
No, it's no, this yeah. A lot of people ask me the same question, but if I'm driving on a bike, I'm not going on the highway because I know I cannot do that. It's so come on, this is what I do. I know what to do and what I can't do, and of course I did a lot of stupid things, but I was fighting, raised in the Dutch free fight community, and like the big, not the heroes, but the guys who were fighters before me, was like Bob Schreiber and some other fighters, and they all had a little bending the rules a little bit, and that's what I also did, but I always knew what was right, what was wrong.
Right, but what I mean is like you're going from an event where you can't grab the ropes and get an escape. Now you can grab the ropes. Then you go to Pride, you can't grab the rope. You know, you have all these different
Yeah,
things going on.
I'm a smart guy. I know what's what's
Mm,
allowed, what's not allowed.
mm,
Come on, and I did a lot of stupid things, but I knew
mm.
every second of the way. I knew what I was doing. So yeah.
So let's talk about going to Japan. I mean, I know a lot of Dutch fighters end up there. What were you when you first went or when you were first asked to go? What was your impression when you got there?
Well, first of all, the thing is, when I was living in this farmer town in, let's say, a respectful farmer town in Holland, I always want to go live in Amsterdam. I was born in Amsterdam, but I want to go back there, and I want to be a champion. The moment I was back in Amsterdam, I was like, hey, what? All the big fighters go to Japan. I want to also go to Japan, and it was awesome to go there. But the flight is like 12 hours of 11 hours, and I hated it. I'm okay with flying, but for like 11 hours, I didn't like it. But going to the, like, how I say, Mecca, the the place of fighting, Japan was of course the greatest thing ever. And the people in Holland in the show, they're like loud and cheering and screaming, but the people in Japan they were quiet. They were, if you were fighting over there, they were quiet and only making applause if they saw something awesome. So there was a different kind of vibe over there. But um, you couldn't do anything wrong. They loved the fact that you're a fighter, and so yeah, I got a lot of appreciation over there. And yeah, Japan, of course, being invited to Japan is a dream, and actually fighting over there, yeah, it's the best thing ever.
So when you go to rings, you're dealing with Akira Maeda. You know, I want to ask you kind of like going from rings to Pride. So
Yeah.
Akira Maeda, I mean, I lived in Japan for a few years, but I never met, you know, I didn't know him or anything, you know, or know of him. But what were your impressions of Akira Maeda? I mean, he's kind of a legendary figure in the old days of the sport.
Well, yeah, can I say? For me, he's just a guy. He was of course, the big man in rings. Um, well, I was beating all his fighters. So he liked me and he didn't like me. But yeah, he was, of course, this legend. Uh, Basically, same as Chris Dolman in Holland, the owner of the Rings Holland. Yeah, Maeda, he was always cool to me. Um, yeah, and again, he hated that I beat all his fighters. I beat TK Kusaka, I beat Tamura, I beat all his fighters, but he was cool and nice. Uh, I remember fighting Tamura for the title, and I was beating Tamura. I was beating his ass, like, and Tamura was done. And Maeda was like, "Oh, he keep fighting, buddy, keep fighting." And at one point, he was barely able to stand up, and then Maeda was the guy who say stop, and then yeah, the ref say, "Okay, it's over." Yeah, he was the big man, the big boss. He was cool to me until I left for Pride. He didn't like that. Yeah, they were not happy about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that because you win this tournament, you become the rings champion. What were your feelings as far as leaving rings to go to Pride? Did you have any hesitation to do it, or was it just no problem?
Well, at that point, I was fighting. I just wanted to fight, and I went from rings being champion, getting paid, let's say, $3,000, to getting to Pride and getting paid, let's say, $25,000. So well, then I think the step is an easy step.
Hmm.
Maybe if I think back at it, maybe it was too soon for me, because yeah, me and my trainer were like not evolved yet, evolved enough to be in Pride yet. My trainer is just awesome. it was this awesome guy, but we weren't ready. My stand-up was okay, better at everything, and go to Pride. But I had this manager. It was a good manager, and he was once, of course, the best for me. So yeah, getting a paycheck from 3,000 to 25,000 is a big step up, and yeah, we went.
Now, when Pride comes to you, because I want to ask about, like, did they just approach your manager with like an offer 25,000, 30,000 to leave, or is that kind of how it worked?
Yeah, something like that. They were talking. Of course, I had to win the. Of not, I had to win the title, but I won the title. Rings is, of course, the better negotiation. I said it. Deal. Yeah, I don't know. They were talking, and yeah, they were talking with Pride, and they got me the deal. So yeah.
So even before you won the tournament, they had been talking, maybe.
I don't know. I think so. I'm not
Oh,
sure.
okay.
Again,
Yeah,
I
because you
wonder.
said it. Maybe was there pressure to win the tournament? Was it something where they're saying, okay, if you win, we'll do
No,
this? Or
no, 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 no. They
okay,
didn't. No, no, no. They didn't tell me anything. I knew they were. I think I knew they were talking, but my focus was just on winning the fight. And back in that time, things were a little different. Right now, we know everything. All the fighters know everything. I was, well, not kept in the dark, but also not busy with that part of my career. The management and the other fights and other show. I was just happy to be fighting. I was just this dumb kid who was just trying to beat everybody up.
talk about that a little bit. You just mentioned the fighters know everything. What do you mean by that? Just that everything's out there in the open. There's not much secrets anymore, or is that what you mean by that? Or
Well, I think back in the days, you had a manager, and he's like the guy who took care of you and did all the talking, the contracts, the phone calls, and I wasn't busy with that. And I'm not saying it happened to me, but I know it happened to a lot of fighters that the manager told them, now we're fighting for $10,000. We get a contract for $10,000, but the contract was like 25, and they put another 15 in his own pocket. I'm not saying it happened to me or people that I know or are close to mine, but I know it happened. And but yeah, you were being kept in the dark about it, and you were loyal to your manager, and you just didn't know because back in the day there was not real internet. If you fought, you get a VCR tape with you, and that's what you show to the rest of the world. And nowadays we got internet, Insta, so basically, yeah, I can reach out to everybody. I can check everything. If my manager would say, now Gilbert, you will get this paid, I can just send this guy an email or an Insta or whatever, like the way you get in contact with me. So everybody's reachable right now. And now everything is, what you say, is in the open, and it's harder for people to get fucked over. Let's say it in this disrespectful way.
yeah, so maybe you think you kind of wish you could have came up in this era, maybe when it comes
Yeah,
to the
but
negotiating and things.
that is what all fighters will say, because we get paid more now. We got like we yeah. The fighting system is different now. We know more now. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's what everybody wants. I think and all the old fighters. Everything is better now than. Well, sometimes things are better then, but I think in the, let's say, the money wise is better now. And how I would have done my deals and dealt with trainers and managers, what I know now, it will be totally different than then.
Now you get to Pride, at that time, all of us, Pride was like the Super Bowl, I guess. So you get there the first time. What are you thinking when you get there the first time?
Yeah. Yeah, Pride, the big show. I knew Pride was the big show. I only knew it was the big show, and I get paid a lot of money. That's it. I never checked Pride before that. I never knew nothing. I fought Victor Bell for the first fight. I had no idea who he was, what his style was. Even not even I didn't even know how to pronounce his name. Um, it shows how little I knew about the whole Pride show and about fighting in the, let's say, Champions League. I know now that Victor was prepared. He was training with everybody for me. Yeah, I was just another show I could fight in, and it was amazing. It's crazy how they do everything. It's, you got, yeah. If you arrive in Japan, you get your hotel in your hotel room, and then you have to do like 20 interviews, and the next day another 10, and then you get picked up the next day to go to the arena, and get your own locker room, and it's just crazy. I think you fight for at least 30, 40,000 men. Another 10 million are watching on TV, and then the show, the start, the presentation to the public is like big shows, like fireworks and crazy. It's amazing. Yeah.
And then like after the show, you went out to Roppongi or something like that. Is that what you usually would do?
So we went to Roppongi always. Yeah. Yeah, I had a good time at Roppongi. Yeah, that's what we did. Actually, after the fight, the next morning at what is it? At 8? No, I'm lying. I think at 5 or 6 you were picked up to go to the airport because the airport is an hour drive. So we just came straight from the club, pretty much drunk, get your stuff, and then go. Yeah, yeah. We went to the Roppongi. We had a good time over there. Yeah.
So they didn't even give you an extra day. Then you had to leave the very next day.
Yeah, but it's okay. Japan is nice, but stay there for a while was not my thing. Yeah.
Tell people about Roppongi because most people have never been there. I know it, but maybe describe it to people. Roppongi's kind of an unusual place, I would say. It's
Yeah.
different, maybe like a tiny Vegas in Japan, sort of, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, I don't. Yeah, maybe. It's just a different place you can go to. We're like a couple of places we go. Wall Street. I don't even remember the names. But we always ended up in the sports cafe because sports cafe is the place where all the girls, the foreign girls who are working in the strip clubs and the gentleman clubs, they were coming after work to stay there, and we had always a good time over there. Yeah, Roppongi, you get gentleman clubs, strip clubs, of course, normal clubs, and yeah, because we were fighters, it's always great for us because the Japanese people loved us, and we always have a great time. Yeah.
Now you mentioned Vitor. I wanted to ask you, what did you think about him fighting Holyfield?
Well, yeah, it's smart. Yeah, a smart move from him. Not a smart move for Holyfield because when I saw the fight, I thought Holyfield started to move a little bit, and he was probably thinking, "Well, we're gonna start slow and do our thing." But Peter don't start slow; he just beat him up. Yeah, smart. Well, if you get this Paul Logan of Logan Paul, what's his name, fight after that and make a shitload of money, well, good for him. But yeah, great for Victor, of Vitor. Um, too bad for Holyfield. On the other side, if you look at a different, like a little bit disrespectful to this amazing former champion.
Do you think if Vitor hadn't stormed him right away, that Holyfield could have got into the fight at all, or do you think it was inevitable that it would have been that way?
Yeah, it was no, he wouldn't have made it to the end of the fight because if you put two old guys in the fight, of course, like Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr., you will have a similar fight. But if you put this, if Vitor is like 44 and the Evander was like what's almost 60,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, no, come on, and Vitor is an animal.
Well, what about De La Hoya? I mean, that's who he was supposed to fight. What do you think that fight would have been like?
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know how old De La Hoya is, but his what I saw on his online from his training camp, that he I think it would be a different fight. I'm not sure if he could beat a good Victor, but yeah, De La Hoya is, I don't know. I really don't know. If I think about it, I have no idea. This is a fight. I better say nothing. I say nothing and just watch it on TV, and then I will be like, oh okay.
But for me, it was interesting because I feel like they kind of had a little bit of that pride thing going on where they could kind of match a couple guys up, and you're like, I don't know who's going to win this fight. You know, you got two people from kind of one the great boxer of his era in De La Hoya, and then you got Vitor, who's a very good boxer himself, MMA fighter, and it was kind of like you're bringing these two kind of pride was like that kind of the clash of the styles, who's the strongest. That was always
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
That was K1's quote, but yeah, they were bringing the kind of like Olympics sort of, and it kind of had that. I think with these Jake Paul matches and some of these other, they can do some stuff that's more unusual, like cross weights,
Yeah.
open weight fights, these things that you don't see in boxing. So it's a little unusual in some ways, kind of interesting, I guess, to me.
Who did you pick winning that fight?
Man, I don't know. That's the thing. That's why I found it so interesting, because I was curious. In a way, I felt like I had some people saying, come on, De La Hoya hasn't fought in way too long. He would have no. But on the other side, I was thinking, can De La Hoya's body do what his mind wants him to do? And then could his experience carry him in the fight? That's what I wanted to see.
Yeah, because of course De La Hoya is like much better boxer than Vitor. Yeah, but yeah, what you say, he didn't fight for a long time, so.
Because we saw that with Nick Diaz, he didn't fight for like 5, 6, 7 years, whatever. He goes in there with Robbie Lawler, who's been busy, and yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know what happened with Nick, because first of all, they should have fight in a lower weight class. So he clearly didn't want to, could not or want to make that weight. So that's already like the first sign of something is, let's say something is wrong. In Holland we say you can go deep, you cannot go. Oh shit! How do you say deep? You could not like give him it all. Like if you have the weight cut, it's a hard cut sometimes. And you have to be mentally strong to make the cut. And then he fight Robbie. He does well for 2 rounds, and then I think he broke his nose, but then he literally broke. He stopped fighting. So Robbie got beaten up. I think the first 2 rounds, and Robbie had to go deep. Right, is the right word. So I had to go deep and I think Nick just wasn't ready to do that. I think he actually didn't really want to fight. And if you don't really want to fight, you can't go deep. I think a lot of people were pulling him into this, into the fight. He might have said yes, but maybe he didn't. His heart was not into it.
Yeah, was it surprising to you? I think for anybody, people like us who were watching from beginning, I think Nick Diaz would be the last guy we'd expect to wave a fight off.
Yeah.
So was it pretty shocking to you to see that?
Yeah, I was shocked, but in coming up to the fight, the thing is, normally I just watch the show, but I'm doing a podcast. It's the name of the podcast is The Golden Cage. It's about UFC. and we talk after the fight of the UFC. We talk post fights. It's a really fun show. But now I'm like watching everything, and I'm watching Nick Diaz, and he's like honest. He's like, I really don't want to fight. If I hate, but every fighter have that coming up to a fight. You don't really want to fight, because that's the fight demons. But it showed, actually, but the first stare down, he was not, he put his eyes down, looked at Dana, and turned away. So he was not really, yeah, the Nick we know from back in the days. So I didn't expect him to do that, but it's made sense when he did it.
Right, but you brought up a good point, and I thought of that too. It did feel like he was being pulled into this fight by outside forces. Isn't it their responsibility to say, okay, he's not into this? We probably shouldn't bring him back into the UFC at this time, like his management or whatever, because they know.
Yeah, but I think all fighters have a moment in camp, or maybe a couple moments in camp that they not really ready for it. And they most of the time they get pulled through it with the trainers, and the managers, and yeah. But I think I don't know how much money he made, but I think this is a big payday for a lot of people, and maybe the fact that he does really want to fight, yeah, maybe they didn't really care about that, because I don't know how he made, but if you get 10% from whatever, it's still money. So it's hard for me to say. I know for myself that it's a couple of times I had a fight and I didn't want to fight because it was too close after another fight, or let's say the race safer fight. I was training in Vegas for 3 months. I was doing nothing but ground. Then I came back from Vegas. I had to fight 2 weeks after that with Ray Sevo in the K1, and I didn't want to do it. But my trainers kept talking to me, and it's my responsibility. You have to fight, yada yada yada. And of course, I did. Yeah, but I didn't want to, and it is but it's difficult. If your trainer says you have to fight, that's what you do. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you're contracted to an organization or whatever, do you feel like it's like that more often than not, or are they more along the lines of we want you to fight more when you're, or do they try to accommodate you, or is it more like, hey, we need you on this day no matter what kind of thing?
I hope I get your answer, your question good, but for me, I fought in K1, and it was actually I wasn't on contract in K1. They just offered me a fight, and my management and my trainers told me you have to fight, just go fighting. Nowadays, I'm like a little bit shocked of all the fighters who were denying a fight. When I was fighting Pride, I fought like every 2 months, and I just fought everybody they put in front of me. And actually, in the UFC, I also fought everybody they put in front of me. And maybe I should have talked to them and say, "Hey, give me a better fighter, a fighter who's better suited for me." But the moment you're in contract and you're ready for, you just prepared, right? I think you should fight everybody, especially if you're the champion or you're a high-ranked fighter. Basically, I think if you in a show you want to be the best, yeah, you have to fight everybody. Otherwise, you cannot become the champion.
Yeah, it does seem like there's less of that today. It's almost like the fighters are kind of picking and choosing who they are going to compete against. Not just champions, but people all up and down the card. Why does that happen? I mean, they're under contract. Is maybe the UFC is giving them more leeway to promote their own fights, but it
Mm,
is unusual.
no, I think, yeah. How do I say that? Um, I think they're more focused now on, let's say this. Back in the days, fighting was fighting. Now fighting became a sport, and they yeah, everybody wants to be champion or want to be high up in the ranks, and yeah, they don't want to fight somebody who will give them too much of, let's say, they want to fight somebody they know they can beat. If they know I might not be able to beat this guy, they just don't want to fight. And I think that's not. I don't think that is right. I think they are thinking too much about, of course, the money and the legacy, and but not about the real, fighting spirit. This guy is good. Maybe he's better than me. Let's go in there and let me show him that I will kick his ass. It's also the same thing. I think a little is like they're not really fighting in the ring anymore. They just playing it safe. Like say Kane, the French dude is, yeah. His last fight, he was who did he fight? No, not Falcon. Who did he fight? Big Boy, right? No, no,
Yeah,
no. Who?
who are you
He's like,
talking about? Kane Velasquez? Is
yeah.
that what you
No, no,
mentioned?
no, no, no. The French dude who's fighting for the title soon. He was
Oh,
fighting
the
Derek Lewis.
yeah.
He was fighting Derek Lewis, but he was taking it safe. He was not, and that's what I see. There's a lot of fighters doing. They're like taking it safe. They're not going in there and try to beat somebody up. Like Gilbert Burns against the karate guy, he was taking it safe, and that will take a little bit away from the awesome sport of fighting. Is what I think. So if they fight somebody, they don't go all the way. They don't want to take risk, and yeah, if I don't like the opponent, they just don't want to fight them. I think that's a little stupid. Maybe smart, but a little stupid for us, the viewers.
Right, but has the UFC lost a little bit of control? Because before they could make people fight each other, and now it seems like it's a little bit more of a difficult task than what was before.
Maybe they did, but also maybe I think there's a plan behind it. Let's say Kane versus Nugano. I think it's a better pay-per-view than Kane versus than Nugano versus Lewis. If they got Kane versus Nagano, they got and like the whole of the world watching, but also now they got France, the French show. They might do it in France, in Frankrijk or Paris doing the show. So I think it's all about the Benjamins. Maybe uh, the most of maybe the fight that is uh, most logic for us or and for the other fighters is not the money fight for the UFC. Maybe I hope I said that right.
I want to ask you about Cyril Gane because you're a great striker, a decorated striker. And you see Cyril Gane from France come into the UFC, and now he's the interim champion at heavyweight. And
I lost you.
no, can
Something
you hear
happened.
me?
Yeah, I can still hear you, but I cannot see you.
Okay, hold on, I'll fix it. Let's see. But you can hear my question though.
Yeah, of course, of
Okay,
course.
I'll fix it. Yeah, so Cyril Gane, as a decorated striker as you are, um, what are your impressions of him? I mean, coming from that French kickboxing background.
Um, I have to be honest that I thought he was this one day wonder kid because in my mind he still didn't get tested, really get tested. Falcon what's his name, the Volkov, the big Russian guy. He didn't pull the trigger on him. Derek Lewis wasn't able to pull the trigger on him. So yeah, what he does is awesome because he's this great heavyweight striker. He moves. This is what I say.
There have legalized kind of like mixed martial arts in France. How much of an influence do you think that's going to have on?
I don't know. I think it. I think we'll get